I'm going to play the entire Donald Trump speech. Now, I've watched it twice, and my opinion is Donald Trump is America's Adolf Hitler. And I know that those are powerful words and they will elicit responses from Trump supporters, uh, de- denigrating me, etc. I don't care. And I will tell you that if the remarks get personal, I'm just going to delete them, mute and block you. So I'm going to tell you that right up front. All right, I listened to the entire speech, and Donald Trump basically uh, lies through quite a bit of it. As he's making his speech, I'm going to point out some, if not all, of the falsehoods that he spews. But the important part about this is this man is not preaching, bringing people together. He's basically doing what Hitler did, which was targeting a segment of people to focus an attack on in order to, I guess, rally his base. He would call it rallying the American people, but the American people, I don't believe, are buying what he's selling. So anyway, let's get into his speech, and we'll go from there.
The former Secret Service agent who's seen her under pressure and in times of stress has stated that she lacks the temperament and integrity to be our president. There will be plenty of opportunity to discuss these important issues at a later time, and I will deliver that speech very, very soon. But today, there is only one thing to discuss: the growing threat of terrorism inside of our borders. The attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, was the worst terrorist strike on our soil since September 11th, and the worst mass shooting in our country's history. So
that's not true. I can just reference the mass shootings in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a bunch of white people went in because of a lie and shot up 1/3 of the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was the black portion of the city. 200 black people were killed in that mass shooting, which is exactly what it was. Now, it wasn't perpetrated by one person, as the Orlando shooting was, but it was still one much larger than the Orlando shooting. And there are other shootings, mass shootings, which took place against African American citizens of this country. But obviously, that portion of history is not reflected in Mr. Trump's speech.
many people, just hard to believe, but just so many people dead, so many people gravely injured, so much carnage, such a disgrace. The horror is beyond description. The families of these wonderful people are totally devastated, and they will be forever. Likewise, our whole nation, and indeed, the whole world is devastated. We express our deepest sympathies to the victims, the wounded, and their families. We mourn as one people for our nation's loss and pledge our support to any and all who need it. I would like to ask now that we all observe a moment of silence for the victims of this attack. Thank you. Our nation stands together in solidarity with the members of Orlando's LGBT community. They have been through something that nobody could ever experience. This is a very dark moment in America's history. A radical Islamic terrorist targeted the nightclub, not only because he wanted to kill Americans, but in order to execute gay and lesbian citizens because of their sexual orientation.
Now let's stop there. There is no proof that just because this person was a practicing Muslim, oh, and yes, it was an act of terror, but it's not an act of terror that Mr. Trump would have us believe in order to focus us on foreign terrorists. This man, quite possibly, being a Muslim and beginning to exhibit homosexual tendencies, and I say that because there are reports that he had attended this club on more than 10 occasions over several months. And there are also reports that he had signed up on gay dating websites. In my opinion, what could have happened, and again, I don't know what exactly the thoughts that were in his mind, but what could have happened was that he went into the club and was self-hating before he went into that club, so that he planned to go in there, kill a bunch of people from the LGBT community, and have his own life taken, and in order to stop his own internal feelings. But in order to do that, he didn't want to acknowledge those feelings, so he needed cover. And that's why he made the statements that he did about supporting ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah. For those of you who are not that familiar with those three organizations, ISIS and Al-Qaeda are at direct odds with each other. So if you're supporting one, you basically are not supporting the other. But he basically said that he was supporting both, so that makes no sense. Anyway, let's continue with Mr. Trump's speech.
It's a strike at the heart and soul of who we are as a nation. It's an assault on the ability of free people to live their lives, love who they want, and express their identity. It's an attack on the right of every single American to live in peace and safety in their own country. We need to respond to this attack on America as one united people, with force, purpose, and determination. But the current politically correct response cripples our ability to talk and to think and act clearly. We're not acting clearly. We're not talking clearly. We've got problems. If we don't get tough, and if we don't get smart and fast, we're not going to have our country anymore. There will be nothing, absolutely nothing left. The killer, whose name I will not use or ever say, was born in Afghan.
Okay, let's call that lie number one. The killer was born in Queens, New York, about 3 miles from where you, Mr. Trump, were born. So that's mistake number one.
Of Afghan parents who immigrated to the United States. His father published support for the Afghan Taliban, a regime which murders those who don't share its radical views, and they murdered plenty. The father even said he was running for president of Afghanistan. The bottom line is that the only reason the killer was in America in the first place was because we allowed his family to come here.
Okay, now, the family immigrated here more than 30 years ago. 30 years ago. If you're going to buy the radical Islamist argument, They immigrated here 30 years ago. The son had a clean record. The father had a clean record. So you mean to tell me that for a family that immigrates here 30 years in the past, you're going to blame the immigration policies? And by the way, the father immigrated here under Ronald Reagan, just so that you know. So it was Republican immigration policies that I guess you're getting ready to denigrate.
That is a fact, and it's a fact we need to talk about. We have a dysfunctional immigration system which does not permit us to know who we let into our country, and it does not permit us to protect our citizens properly. We have an incompetent administration, and if I'm elected president, that will not change. I will tell you, that will not change.
All right, see, now that was stupid, because he just said we have an incompetent administration, and if he's elected president, that won't change. Idiotic. Okay, let's keep going.
For the next 4 years, we have an administration that will not change. But if I get in there, it's going to change, and it's going to change quickly. We're going from totally incompetent to just the opposite, believe me.
Okay, so he just said two contradictory statements. I don't know, he's not really used to that teleprompter, and we can't see what is being said in that teleprompter, but I got a feeling he got that piece wrong.
Thank you. With 50 people dead, and perhaps more ultimately, and dozens more wounded, we cannot afford to talk around issues anymore. We have to address these issues head on. I called for a ban after San Bernardino and was met with great scorn and anger. But now, many years, and I have to say, many years, but many are saying that I was right to do so. And although the pause is temporary, we must find out what.
All right, now he said he called for a ban after San Bernardino, and then he said many years later. Wasn't San Bernardino last year? So I think he got that teleprompter part wrong again. But more importantly, how would a ban have stopped this act from happening, since this was an American citizen, okay, that had not left the country, okay, since 2000, I believe it was 2011, 2012. Now, he had gone to Saudi Arabia twice, I believe, in 2011 and 2012 on visits there for pilgrimages. Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know, and they're still trying to investigate to see if that's true. But since then, he never left the country. But the bottom line is he was an American citizen, so a ban on Muslims immigrating into this country would have had no effect on him.
What is going on? We have to do it. It will be lifted, this ban, when and as a nation we're in a position to properly and perfectly screen these people coming into our country.
So in other words, you're never going to lift the ban because there is no such thing as properly and perfectly vetting people coming into the country. It's no such thing. You know, there are going to be people that are going to slip through the cracks merely because nobody has the ability to monitor a person who wants to come into this country 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for their entire life history. So there's no such thing as perfect.
They're pouring in, and we don't know what we're doing. The immigration laws of the United States give the president powers to suspend entry into the country of any class of persons. Now, any class, it really is determined and to be determined by the president for the interests of the United States. And it's as he or she deems appropriate.
That's not necessarily true. and there have been people on both sides of the aisle, in particular political scholars, that believe that the president attempting to ban all Muslims from coming into the country specifically based on their religious beliefs would be deemed unconstitutional.
Hopefully it's he in this case. Thank you. I will use this power to protect the American people. When I'm elected, I will suspend immigration from areas of the world where there is a proven history of terrorism against the United States, Europe, or our allies, until we fully understand how to end these threats.
Okay, that's something new. Now, instead of just banning Muslims coming into the country, he is now stating that he is going to ban entire regions. Anybody that comes from particular regions in the world from coming to this country. So that means that he not only is going to ban Muslims, but he's going to ban Christians and Jews, any person, no matter what their religious affiliation, he would ban. I guess the evangelicals would probably have a little something to say about that, but they probably won't.
After a full... Thank you. And by the way, we have no choice. After full, impartial, and long, really long overdue security assessment, we will develop a responsible immigration policy that serves the interests and values of America. We cannot continue to allow thousands upon thousands of people to pour into our country, many of whom have the same thought process as this savage killer. Many of the principles of...
See, and that's the thing about Donald Trump. He likes to speak in hyperbole, okay? If all of these people that he's talking about, thousands and thousands of people are pouring into the country and they're all basically radicalized, why aren't we having any type of, tons of mass shootings and mass acts of terror? I'm basically waiting for them to really to point out, 5, 10, 15 of them. Now, you may call the San Bernardino situation an act of a mass shooting and an act of terror because of those two people. That's one instance that I could readily think of. And then you could, possibly call the Boston bombing another instance, okay? But thousands and thousands, and you have two maybe, and probably, well, you guys out there could probably pick up one or two more. And yeah, any act of terrorism by radicalized people is one act, too many. But based on what he's saying, we should be seeing stuff like this every week, and we're just not.
Radical Islam are incompatible with Western values and institutions. Remember this, radical Islam is anti-woman, anti-gay, and anti-American. I refuse to allow America to become a place where gay people, Christian people, Jewish people are targets of persecution and intimidation by radical Islamic preachers of hate and violence. This is not just a national security issue, it's a quality of life issue. If we want to protect the quality of life for all Americans, women and children, gay and straight, Jews and Christians, and all people, then we need to tell the truth about radical Islam, and we need to do it now.
Okay, thus far, and he's gone like 8, 9 minutes in his speech. He's mentioned radical Islam about 10 times, and it's a buzzword. Now, in the statement that he just made, he failed to mention the Muslim community in this country that share our values. Was that an oversight? You got me.
We need to tell the truth also about how radical Islam is coming to our shores. That is coming. With these people, folks, it's coming. We're importing radical Islamic terrorism into the West through a failed immigration system and through an intelligence community held back by our president. Even our own FBI director has admitted that we cannot effectively check the backgrounds of people we're letting into America.
Okay, now he likes to throw stuff out, but he never gives you examples of what he's talking about. Now, in relationship to the FBI director Comey, he did initially state that they couldn't properly vet people coming in from, I guess, Syria and a couple of other countries over there. But he walked those comments back. He walked them back. But Mr. Trump basically wants to concentrate on his initial comments, not on his updated comments.
Of the September 11th hijackers were issued visas. Large numbers of Somali refugees in Minnesota have tried to join ISIS. The Boston bombers came here through political asylum. The male shooter in San Bernardino, again, whose name I will not mention, was the child of immigrants from Pakistan, and he brought his wife, the other terrorist, from Saudi Arabia through another one of our easily exploited visa programs.
Right, but the male shooter was an American citizen, Mr. Trump. You failed to mention that. Your ban on Muslims would not have affected him, unless you want to now step it back to the fact that his parents came in here. And again, we're talking about them coming in under Ronald Reagan's administration, where there wasn't a problem.
Immigration from Afghanistan into the United States has increased nearly fivefold in just 1 year. According to Pew Research, 99% of the people in Afghanistan support oppressive Sharia law. We admit many more, and that's just the way it is. We admit many more from other countries in the region, and I'll tell you what, they share these oppressive views and values. We want to remain a free and open society. Then, and if we do, then we have to control our borders. We have to control, and we have to control them now, not later, right now.
We have to control our borders. I got a question. Maybe somebody out there can answer it. Let's say Mr. Trump is successful. He gets in. Let's say the Congress is dumb enough to allocate the funds necessary to build that wall, which there's no chance in hell that they're going to do that. And he's always talking about Mexico's going to pay for the wall. So what are you going to do? Steal the funds from Mexico to pay for the wall? But let's say even that, you stole the funds, you got the money from Mexico to pay for the wall. He says that we need to do something immediately. Just how long is it going to take to build a 1,500-mile wall along the southern border? I don't think that's going to occur immediately.
Yet Hillary Clinton, for months, and despite so many attacks, repeatedly refused to even say the words radical Islam until I challenged her yesterday, and guess what? She will probably say them. She sort of has said them, but let's see what happens. She really has no choice, but she doesn't want. However, she's really been forced, and she has been forced to say these words. She supports, and the reason is she supports so much of what is wrong and what is wrong with this country and what's going wrong with our country and our borders. She has no clue, in my opinion, what radical Islam is, and she won't speak honestly about it if she does, in fact, know. She's in total denial, and her continuing reluctance to ever name the enemy broadcasts weakness across the entire world. True weakness.
What the hell does calling somebody a name have to do with any of this? I wouldn't give a damn if you called them little toy soldiers. We don't need rhetoric, which is what you're giving us, and that's all you're giving us. Why don't you mention solutions as far as going after quote-unquote radical Islamist terrorists? Not one word about a solution other than banning people coming into the country. That's not going to do it.
I don't know if you know this, but just a few weeks before San Bernardino, the slaughter, that's all it was, a slaughter, Hillary Clinton explained her refusal to say the words radical Islam. Here is what she said, exact quote: Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism. That is Hillary Clinton.
I don't think that was the exact quote, but the majority of Muslims have nothing to do with terror. It's a small minority of Muslims that have radicalized that are the terrorists.
So she says the solution is to ban guns. They tried that in France, which has among the toughest gun laws anywhere in the world, and 130 people were brutally murdered by Islamic terrorists in cold blood. Her plan is to disarm law-abiding Americans.
Now, that is a lie. It is a huge lie. Hillary Clinton, just as President Obama, do not want to ban all guns. They want to ban certain classes of guns, i.e. AR-15 style assault rifles. Okay, now, I got a bunch of those, and magazines up the kazoo. If you want to stop this, okay, and they ban them, okay, they're not going to force people to turn theirs in. They're just going to ban the manufacture of those types of weapons, and they're going to basically limit magazines. If they really wanted to do something, they would limit the magazine size, all right? But she has not called for a ban of all guns. That's just bullshit.
Abolishing the Second Amendment and leaving only the bad guys and terrorists with guns.
She has never said anything about abolishing the Second Amendment. So that's another bullshit line. Now, I will tell you, as far as handguns are concerned, and I got, I got my share. The benefit of an AR-15 is magazine size. That's pretty much the only benefit, because if you measure the damage done by a 9mm round versus a 223 round, the 9mm round will do much more damage than the 223 round. The limitation on magazine size, and they are improving the sizes of the magazines that are going into handguns, are going to possibly not put it on par with an AR-15, but it's going to start stepping it up. Currently, most of the magazines that you'll find for a 9mm gun, depending on the manufacturer, they normally will have approximately up to 17 round magazines. Now you can get an extended magazine that will take your capacity up to about 30 rounds. Now on AR-15s, here's where the damage is done. You have, and particularly in California, they have a law that you can't have more than 10 rounds in a magazine. So, and they're manufacturing magazines specifically for California with the 10 round limitation. But in most other places, the magazine size is not limited. So the standard magazine round for an AR-15 is 30. But you have magazines that go all the way up to and probably exceed. Well, I know they definitely go up to 100 round magazines, and they probably exceed that number. I haven't seen any that go above 100, but I have seen 100 round magazines. That's the difference.
No good. Not gonna happen, folks. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. She wants to take away Americans' guns and then admit the very people who want to slaughter us. Let them come into the country. We don't have guns. Let them come in. Let them have all the fun they want. I will be meeting.
He calls it fun. Jesus.
With the NRA, which has given me their earliest endorsement in a presidential race to discuss how to ensure Americans have the means to protect themselves in this age of terror.
All right, now the NRA is a whole nother different ballgame here. The people in Congress attempted to pass legislation that would have denied the purchase of any firearm by a person that was on the no-fly zone. So if you have a bad enough issue that you are placed on a no-fly zone, they believe that you should still have the ability to purchase a firearm. That makes absolutely no sense. And the polls of the American people agreed that people that are on that no-fly zone shouldn't be able to purchase a weapon. Unfortunately, the NRA has the majority of the GOP members in their pockets and some Democratic members in their pockets as well. So that got defeated. Then they came back and said that, tried to pass a law that said anybody that had been red flagged under an FBI investigation should not have the ability to purchase a gun. Later amended to generate a list of people who had previously been under FBI investigation, were no longer under FBI investigation, and attempting to purchase a gun, so that it would reopen their case file, and that information in turn could be passed down to local law enforcement so that they could keep an eye on that individual. That got voted down as well too, only because the NRA was totally against it. So I don't want to hear anything about the NRA as far as trying to keep us safe. They basically don't want to restrict the sale of weapons to anybody, terrorist or otherwise.
I will be always defending the Second Amendment. Thank you. Thank you. The bottom line is that Hillary supports policies that bring the threat of radical Islam into America and allow it to grow overseas, and it is growing. In fact, Hillary Clinton's catastrophic immigration plan will bring vastly more radical Islamic immigration into this country, threatening not only our society, but our entire way of life. When it comes to radical Islamic terrorism, ignorance is not bliss. It's deadly, totally deadly. The Obama administration, with the support of Hillary Clinton and others, has also damaged our security by restraining our intelligence gathering, and we have just no intelligence gathering information. We need this information so badly, and he stopped it. We don't have the support. We don't have the support of the law enforcement system because...
That is such total bullshit. I mean, what? I mean, when you lie, you should, make it a believable lie. He basically is telling you that the FBI is not investigating anybody about anything, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The FBI has stopped numerous terrorist attempts, both under President Obama, honestly, under Bush as well. So for him to say that the president has stopped intelligence gathering is total bullshit.
Obama is not letting them do their job. They are not being allowed to do their job, and they can do it well, better than anybody. We need a new leader. We need a new leader fast. They have put political correctness above common sense, above your safety, and above all else. I refuse to be politically correct.
That we know, but you also refuse to be an asshole and a racist. So, I mean, it is what it is.
I want to do the right thing. I want to straighten things out, and I want to make America great again. The days of deadly ignorance will end, and they will end soon if I'm elected. As president, I will give our intelligence community, law enforcement, and military the tools they need to prevent terrorist attacks. And they don't have those tools now.
Yeah, you want to tell us the tools that they need that they don't have right now? I'm still waiting on that one.
We need an intelligence gathering system second to none. Second to none. That includes better cooperation between state, local, and federal officials, and with our allies, very importantly. I will have an attorney general, a director of national intelligence, and a secretary of defense who will know how to fight the war on radical Islamic terrorism. And they will have the support that they need to get the job done right, not like it is right now. It's not right. We also must ensure the American people are provided the information they need to understand the threat. The Senate Subcommittee on Immigration has already identified hundreds of immigrants charged with terrorist activities inside the United States since September 11th. Nearly a year ago, the Senate Subcommittee asked President Obama's Department of Justice, State, and Homeland Security to provide the immigration history of all terrorists inside the United States. These departments refused to comply. Nobody even knows why. They refused to comply. President Obama must release the full and complete immigration histories of all individuals implicated in terrorist activities of any kind since September 11th. So important. The public has a right to know how these people got here, how they came onto this great land. Why are they here?
So, in other words, you want to compromise the surveillance activities of the FBI by letting these people know that they're being watched. That's what you want to do by publishing their names and letting the American people know their immigration histories. Yeah, real smart.
We have to screen applicants to know whether they are affiliated with or supporting radical groups and beliefs. Very simple. We have to control the amount of future immigration into this country, And we have to prevent large pockets of radicalization from forming inside America. Not complicated.
If it's not complicated, how do you intend to do it? I'd love to hear that, because that would be something.
Take a look. Every single event, even a single individual, can be devastating. And all you have to do is take a look at what happened in Orlando and what happened in other cases, just a single event. And just one person. Can you imagine what they'll do in large groups, which we're allowing now to come here? Truly, our president doesn't know what he's doing. He's failed us, and he's failed us badly. And under his leadership, this situation will not get any better. It will only get worse, and I've been saying that for a long time. Each year, the United States permanently admits 100,000 immigrants from the Middle East and many more from Muslim countries outside of the Middle East. Our government has been admitting ever-growing numbers year after year without any effective plan for our own security. In fact, Clinton's State Department was in charge of admissions and the admission process for people applying to enter from overseas. Having learned nothing from these attacks, she now plans to massively increase admissions without a screening plan, including a 500% increase in Syrian refugees coming into our country. Tell me, how stupid is that? This could be a better, bigger, more horrible version than the legendary Trojan horse ever was. Altogether, under the Clinton plan, you'd be admitting hundreds of thousands of refugees from the Middle East with no system to vet them or to prevent the radicalization of the children and their children. Not only their children, by the way, they're trying to take over our children and convince them how wonderful ISIS is and how wonderful Islam is, and we don't know what's happening.
That's not true. FBI and various even private organizations monitor the social networks. They do, in fact, take down tremendous numbers of websites that are what you would call radicalizing websites. They're even monitoring the dark web, where these quote-unquote radicals are meeting in chat rooms so that they can keep track of who's who and what's what.
Is on Hillary Clinton to tell us why she believes immigration from these dangerous countries should be increased without any effective system to screen. We're not screening people. So why?
That's a lie. They are screening people, and it's called humanitarian as far as allowing people into the country. But I guess that word doesn't exist in your vocabulary. Jesus. And just as an aside, the majority of the people that are coming in, yes, there are some men, but the majority of them are women and children. And you have quite a few Christians that are coming in within that number, but they don't count as well.
We have an effective screening system. We don't. We're being laughed at all over the world. The burden is on Hillary Clinton to tell us why we should admit anyone into our country who supports violence of any kind against gay and lesbian Americans. The burden is on Hillary Clinton to tell us how she will pay for it. Her plan will cost hundreds of billions of dollars long term. Wouldn't this be money better spent rebuilding America for our current population, including the many poor people already living here? We have cities, we have inner cities, we have poverty all over, and this is how we're spending billions of dollars.
Funny that you want to spend billions of dollars to build a damn wall. We could, instead of building a damn wall, you could take that money and help the people that are in poverty in our rural and inner cities. But that part of the equation didn't click.
We have to stop the tremendous flow of Syrian refugees into the United States. We don't know who they are, they have no documentation, and we don't know what they're planning, and we won't unless we have proper supervision and proper leadership, in which case they're out of here. What I want is common sense. I want a mainstream immigration policy that promotes American values. That's a choice I put before the American people. A mainstream immigration policy designed to benefit America, or Hillary Clinton's radical immigration policy designed to benefit politically correct special interests. That's all it is.
It's funny. If you wanted a policy, why don't you just fly on down to D.C., walk into Congress, since the Republicans control both the House and the Senate, and tell them to put together a comprehensive immigration policy. Did that thought ever cross your mind? Because they are in control of Congress, and I'm pretty sure if they put together a decent plan, the president would sign it. But they have decided that they don't want to do anything on immigration until the next president gets here. So I think your argument is not with the American people. It's not even with the president. It's not even with Hillary Clinton. It's with your own Republican-controlled Congress.
We've got to get smart and tough and vigilant, and we've got to do it now, because later is too late, going to be too late for our country. The media talks about homegrown terrorism, but Islamic radicalism, and that's a very, very important term.
It's so important. You've mentioned it about 40 times already in your speech. And all it is a buzzword to rile up your base.
A term that the president refuses to use. And the networks that nurture it are imports from overseas, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. Yes, there are many radicalized people already inside our country as a result of poor policies of the past. But the whole point is that we will be much, and it will be easier to deal with our current problem if we don't keep on bringing people who add to the problem. And that's what they're doing. We're letting all of these people, hundreds of thousands of people, come in, and all they're doing is adding to this incredible problem we have. For instance, the controversial mosque attended by the Boston bombers had at its founder, and as its founder, an immigrant from overseas charged in an assassination plot. This shooter, and amazingly, in Orlando, was the child of an immigrant father who supported one of the most repressive regimes on earth. Why would we admit people who support violent hatred? Hillary Clinton can never claim to be a friend of the gay community as long as she continues to support immigration policies that bring Islamic extremists to our country and who suppress women, gays, and anyone else who doesn't share their views or values.
Which include other Muslims. You forgot to mention that. And back to that immigration side, I don't hear you mentioning Ronald Reagan, who was the president under which those families immigrated. Can't mention him because that's a sin.
She can't have it both ways. She can't claim to be supportive of these communities while trying to increase the number of people coming in who want to oppress these same communities. How does this kind of immigration make our lives better? How does this kind of immigration make our country better? Why does Hillary Clinton want to bring people in vast numbers, who reject our values? Why? Explain.
The explanation is because they're coming in because they don't reject our values. Simple explanation. They're coming over because they want to embrace our values. Just because they choose to worship in a different manner than some of us, that doesn't mean that they reject our everyday lifestyle values. So that's a crock of bullshit too.
Ask yourself, who is really the friend of women and the LGBT community.
It's not you. Gee.
Donald Trump with actions or Hillary Clinton with her words. I will tell you who the better friend is, and someday I believe that will be proven out bigly.
I'm just trying to see what actions that he's referring to as far as the LGBT community is concerned. He was on he was on NBC when he was questioned about allowing, forget Bruce Jenner, whatever name he's going by now, what his position would be as far as using the restrooms. And he indicated that Bruce Jenner could use any restroom that he wanted. But then when they tried to press him on the state of North Carolina, instead of him saying that the state of North Carolina should allow the person to use any restroom that they gender identify with, he bailed on that one and said, no, it's a decision that should be up to the states. No, if your opinion is your opinion, and in that case, you know, you wanted to have it both ways, but you're accusing Hillary Clinton of wanting to have it both ways. That's bullshit. That's rhetoric.
And by the way, the LGBT community is just, what's happened to them is just so sad. And to be thinking about where their policies are currently with this administration is a disgrace to that community, I will tell you right now.
Yeah, only the community, the administration is supporting LGBT. So I guess that you're considering their support of the LGBT community a disgrace. So translation, that means that you don't support the LGBT community. Words matter.
Clinton wants to allow radical Islamic terrorists to pour into our country. They enslave women and they murder gays. I don't want them in our country.
That's fair. Nobody wants radical Islamic terrorists in any country. So that's a fair statement.
Immigration is a privilege, and we should not let anyone into this country who doesn't support our communities, all of our communities, every single one of them. America has already admitted 4 times more immigrants than any country on earth, anybody in the world, 4 times more, at least, because we don't even know who's coming in. And we continue to admit millions more with no real checks or scrutiny.
That is a lie. That is a lie. For those of you who are unaware of it, the United States has not even 1% of the overall Muslim population in the world. Not okay. That's and that's all of the Americas. That's not that includes the United States and anybody in North America, like Canada, Central America, or South America. We have 1%. There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and the country that has the largest Muslim population, I believe, has about 204 plus million Muslims, and that's Indonesia. The United States, okay, the United States doesn't even have 1 million. They don't even, well, I take that back. I believe overall in the Americas, there is approximately 10 million Muslims, anywhere from Canada all the way down to Brazil. I believe that number is correct. It might be a little high. So we don't have a huge Muslim population. So for him to say millions and millions of Muslims coming into the country, that's just not true. That's a lie.
Not surprisingly, wages for our workers haven't budged in almost 20 years. You wonder why we get the crowds. You wonder why we get this tremendous support. You wonder why I've gotten more votes than any Republican in any primary in the history of the Republican Party. Take a look at that. Take a look at your security, but take a look at the wages. For 18 years, they've been stagnant. They've even gone down. So whether it's a matter of national security or financial security, we can't afford to keep on going like this, cannot afford it. We owe $19 trillion in debt and no longer have any options. Our communities from all backgrounds are ready for some relief. This is not an act of offense against anyone. It's really an act of defense. I want us, all of us, to work together. We have to form a partnership with our Muslim communities. We have Muslim communities in this country that are great, and we have to form that partnership.
Okay, I'll agree with that. We need to form a partnership with the Muslim communities, but now let's see how you suggest that we form that partnership.
Now, the Muslim community, so importantly, they have to work with us. They have to cooperate with law enforcement and turn in the people who they know are bad, and they know it. And they have to do it, and they have to do it forthwith. I want to fix our schools. I want to fix our bridges. And our jobs market, we're going to have it rocket again. We're going to make great trade deals. But I want every American to succeed, including Muslims. But the Muslims have to work with us. They have to work with us. They know what's going on. They know that he was bad. They knew the people in San Bernardino were bad. But you know what? They didn't turn them in. And we had death and destruction. Hillary Clinton wants to empty out the Treasury to bring people into the country that include individuals who preach hate against our citizens. I want to protect our citizens, all of our citizens. The terrorist attack on Pulse nightclub demands a full and complete investigation into every single aspect of the assault. In San Bernardino, as an example, people who know what was going on, they knew exactly, but they used the excuse of racial profiling for not reporting it. They said, oh, we thought so, but we didn't want to use racial profiling, which was probably an excuse given to them by their lawyer so they don't get in trouble. We need to know what the killer discussed with his relatives, parents, friends, and associates.
That's what the FBI is doing right now.
We need to know if he was affiliated with any radical mosques or radical activists, and what, if any, is their immigration status. We have to know, and we have to know fast. We need to know if he traveled anywhere and who he traveled with. We need to know, and we need to make sure every single last person involved in this plan, including anyone who knew something but didn't tell us, is brought to justice. So when people know what's going on and they don't tell us, and we have an attack and people die, these people have to have consequences, big consequences.
Now, that reminds me of Mr. Adolf Hitler, where he had citizens talking about other citizens, and when they didn't, there were consequences. That's exactly what this sounds like. They were called, collaborators, and if you didn't collaborate, you got in trouble. So now I guess Mr. Trump is suggesting that if you know something but don't say something, that you are just as guilty as the person who perpetrated the act. Adolf Hitler, all the way.
America must do more, much more, to protect its citizens, especially people who are potential victims of crimes based on their backgrounds or sexual orientation, as you just saw in Orlando. It also means we must change our foreign policy. The decision to overthrow the regime in Libya, then pushing for the overthrow of the regime in Syria, among other things, without plans for the day after, have created space for ISIS to expand and grow like nobody has ever seen before. These actions, along with our disastrous Iran deal, have also reduced our ability to work in partnership with our Muslim allies in the region.
So you think a ban on all Muslims is really going to endear us with our Muslim allies in the region? Yeah, that really is going to make a lot of sense.
That is why our new goal must be to defeat Islamic terrorism, not nation building. No more nation building. $1 trillion over the years on trying to nation build in the Middle East. And it has been a complete and total disaster. We're further away now than we were 15 years ago.
Now, I'll agree with him on that, but whose fault was that? I think that was your buddy Bush, both 1 and 2.
For instance, the last major NATO mission was Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. That mission helped unleash ISIS on a new continent. I've said NATO needs to change its focus and stop terrorism. We have to focus on terrorism, and we have to stop terrorism. Since I've raised that criticism, and it's okay, I've gotten no credit for it, but these are minor details, NATO has since announced.
Yeah, that's Donald Trump. I've got no credit for it, but that's just a minor detail. Donald Trump's looking to get credit and to toot his own horn every opportunity he gets. And so he had to throw in that he got no credit for it. That's just like that tweet that he did that was senseless, that he claimed somebody gave him credit for calling out that situation down in Orlando, and that was bullshit.
A new initiative, front page of the Wall Street Journal 4 days ago, focused on just that. America must unite the whole civilized world in the fight against Islamic terrorism. Pretty much like we did with communism during the Cold War. We've tried it. President Obama's way doesn't work. He gave the world his apology tour. We got ISIS and many other problems in return. That's what we got. Remember the famous apology tour. We're sorry for everything. I'd like to conclude my remarks today by again expressing our solidarity with the people of Orlando who have come under this horrific attack. When I'm president, I pledge to protect and defend all Americans who live inside our borders.
What about the Americans that live outside of our borders? Don't they deserve protection too?
Wherever they come from, wherever they were born, I don't care. Brought to justice. So when people know what's going on and they don't tell us and we have an attack and people die, these people have to have consequences, big consequences. America must do more, much more, to protect its citizens, especially people who are potential victims of crimes based on their backgrounds or sexual orientation, as you just saw in Orlando. It also means we must change our foreign policy. The decision to overthrow the regime in Libya, then pushing for the overthrow of the regime in Syria, among other things, without plans for the day after, have created space for ISIS to expand and grow like nobody has ever seen before. These actions, along with our disastrous Iran deal.
All right, he's right on that, but he's playing Monday morning quarterback. And just so that all of you know, he called for all of those regime changes himself. So he's being a hypocrite as far as that's concerned.
Have also reduced our ability to work in partnership with our Muslim allies in the region. That is why our new goal must be to defeat Islamic terrorism, not nation building. No more nation building. It's never going to work. And by the way, we've spent almost $5 trillion over the years on trying to nation build in the Middle East. And it has been a complete and total disaster. We're further away now than we were 15 years ago. For instance, the last major NATO mission was Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. That mission helped unleash ISIS on a new continent. I've said NATO needs to change its focus and stop terrorism. We have to focus on terrorism, and we have to stop terrorism. Since I've raised that criticism, and it's okay, I've gotten no credit for it, but these are minor details, NATO has since announced a new initiative, front page of the Wall Street Journal 4 days ago, focused on just that. The whole civilized world in the fight against Islamic terrorism. Pretty much like we did with communism during the Cold War. We've tried it President Obama's way, doesn't work. He gave the world his apology tour. We got ISIS.
Sorry, I thought that I had I guess replay part of it, but he actually did repeat that same stuff. So here we go.
That's what we got. Remember the famous apology tour. We're sorry for everything. I'd like to conclude my remarks today by again expressing our solidarity with the people of Orlando who have come under this horrific attack. When I'm president, I pledge to protect and defend all Americans who live inside our borders. Wherever they come from, wherever they were born, I don't care. All Americans living here and following our laws, not other laws, will be protected. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to be tough, and we're going to be smart, and we're going to do it right. America will be a tolerant and open society. America will also be a safe society. We will protect our borders at home. We will defeat ISIS overseas. We have no choice. We will ensure every parent can raise their children in peace and safety. We will make America rich again. We will make America safe again. We will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that's the end of the speech, and I apologize. There may be a portion of it. I had to use a backup piece recording on his speech at one point, so there may be about a minute and a half worth of duplicated portions of the speech. But, you know, that was not a speech to bring people together. That was a speech that, in my opinion, seeks to divide. But, you know, we each have our own opinion on it, but I swear, every time I see him make any kind of a speech that has anything to do with immigration and Muslims and terrorism, it just reminds me more and more of the focus that Adolf Hitler brought to Germany, where basically he demonized the Jewish populations there, and not just the Jews. He demonized blacks as well, and he brought the primary focus of the everyday person's economic problems. He pointed them at the Jewish population, which was doing well, had businesses, etc., 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 and he just took it all the way out to the extreme as far as his extermination of the Jewish population. But a lot of people may not know it. In northern Africa, he had a lot to do with the extermination of a lot of African people, black African people, in those regions as well. It's there, you can Google it if you choose to, but yeah, he killed a lot of black people that were in Africa as well. But that piece is normally not publicized, whereas the Jews, they made sure everybody and their brother knew about the Holocaust, and their main phraseology is never forget. The people of Africa basically should have taken up that same phraseology. But that's Mr. Trump. You know, if you're a Trump supporter, God bless you, and if you're not, God help us.